Good morning. Today, we're delving into a story that's as much about the law as it is about the shifting tides of American politics. Today, we dive into a legal drama involving James Comey, the former FBI director fired by President Trump. Once the nation's top law enforcement official, Comey's name became synonymous with controversy and high-profile investigations. Comey's tenure was marked by high-stakes investigations and controversy, making him a household name. From the Clinton email probe to the Russia investigation, his decisions shaped the national conversation and divided public opinion. Now, years after leaving office, Comey faces indictment, this time as a defendant, not an investigator. The tables have turned, and the spotlight is on him in a way he's never experienced before. In September 2024, a grand jury charged him with 2 counts of lying to Congress about authorizing media leaks through his friend and lawyer, Daniel Richman. The indictment alleges that Comey misled lawmakers about his role in sharing sensitive information, a serious accusation for any public official. Comey has pleaded not guilty, setting the stage for a contentious legal battle. His legal team is preparing for a fight that could last months, if not years, and the stakes are incredibly high for both sides. The case's political context is impossible to ignore. The indictment was brought by Lindsey Halligan, a Trump-appointed interim US Attorney with no prior prosecutorial experience, just before the statute of limitations expired. Critics argue the timing and choice of prosecutor raise serious questions about the motivations behind the case. Comey's defense claims the prosecution is political retaliation, not impartial justice. They argue that the charges are less about the facts and more about settling old political scores. This backdrop is crucial as the case takes a dramatic turn. The courtroom has become a battleground not just for legal arguments, but for the broader debate over the rule of law in a polarized era. A recent federal magistrate judge's ruling has shifted the focus from Comey's alleged actions to the government's conduct in building its case. The judge questioned whether the prosecution followed proper procedures and respected Comey's rights throughout the investigation. What began as a straightforward perjury case has become a test of prosecutorial fairness and the integrity of the justice system. The judge's scrutiny has forced both sides to confront uncomfortable questions about ethics and accountability. The judge's findings have stunned the legal community. Legal analysts and commentators are debating the implications, with some calling it a landmark moment for judicial oversight. Now, the spotlight is on whether the government's pursuit of Comey crossed ethical and legal lines. The case has become a symbol of the challenges facing the justice system in an era of deep political division. The outcome could have far-reaching implications for how justice is administered in politically charged cases. It may set new precedents for the limits of prosecutorial power and the protection of individual rights. Let's break down what happened next and explore how this extraordinary case could reshape the landscape of American justice. On November 17, 2025, the case took a stunning and unexpected turn, sending shockwaves through the legal community and the public alike. Magistrate Judge William Fitzpatrick released a detailed 24-page opinion that did not hold back, sharply criticizing the Justice Department's handling of the case from start to finish. In his written decision, Fitzpatrick described a troubling pattern of investigative missteps, procedural errors, and even possible government misconduct, issues that, he argued, cast serious doubt on the entire prosecution. The judge's language was unusually direct and forceful, openly questioning whether these repeated errors were simply accidental or part of a deliberate effort that unfairly prejudiced James Comey. Fitzpatrick's opinion went further, detailing specific failures by prosecutors, especially lead attorney Lindsey Halligan, who, according to the judge, ignored established rules designed to protect citizens from government overreach and abuse of power. The ruling raises profound questions about whether the indictment should stand at all, or if the entire case has been compromised beyond repair by these prosecutorial missteps. The judge's findings suggest a troubling rush to judgment, with prosecutors appearing to prioritize securing an indictment over upholding the highest standards of legal ethics and fairness. This scathing rebuke, coming from a respected federal judge, not a pundit or defense lawyer, gives Comey's legal team powerful new grounds to challenge the case and demand accountability. As a result, the trial's momentum has stalled dramatically, with the court now pausing to scrutinize every aspect of the prosecution's conduct and decision-making. The focus now shifts to a critical question: was justice truly served in this case, Or has the process been so fatally flawed that the very foundation of the prosecution is in jeopardy? One of the most alarming issues: prosecutors used digital files seized over 5 years ago from Daniel Richman, Comey's friend and lawyer. The files were originally taken during a different investigation that ended with no charges. Prosecutors reused this old data for the new case, without obtaining a fresh search warrant. The Fourth Amendment requires a warrant for such searches, protecting citizens' privacy. Judge Fitzpatrick condemned this as a cavalier disregard for constitutional rights. The government's approach set a dangerous precedent, suggesting they could access old data at will. This tainted evidence was central to the grand jury's decision to indict Comey. The only witness, an FBI agent, relied on information from these questionable searches. If the evidence was illegally obtained, the entire indictment's legitimacy is in doubt. This isn't a technicality, it's a fundamental breach of legal safeguards. Judge Fitzpatrick also found a serious violation of attorney-client privilege, a cornerstone of the American legal system that ensures fairness and trust. This principle protects confidential communications between a person and their lawyer, allowing clients to speak openly without fear that their words will be used against them. Evidence from Richman's accounts likely included private discussions with Comey, his client, conversations that should have remained strictly between them. Standard procedure in such cases requires a filter team, a group of independent attorneys, to screen out privileged material before prosecutors ever see it, protecting the integrity of the process. In this case, that crucial safeguard was ignored, raising serious questions about the handling of sensitive information. As a result, prosecutors and even the grand jury may have been exposed to confidential legal advice that should have been off-limits. This breach gave the prosecution an unfair advantage, potentially shaping the narrative and influencing the grand jury's decision in ways that violate due process. The failure to protect privileged communications undermines Comey's right to a fair process, casting doubt on the legitimacy of the proceedings. It suggests that the rules designed to ensure fairness and impartiality were disregarded in the rush to indict, eroding public trust in the system. The judge's findings now fuel the defense's claim of a biased, politically motivated prosecution and may become a central issue in future appeals. Such violations strike at the heart of the justice system's integrity, threatening the foundational promise of equal justice under law. The consequences could be severe for the government's case, potentially leading to evidence being thrown out or even the dismissal of charges. The grand jury is meant to check prosecutorial power, not rubber-stamp charges. Judge Fitzpatrick found the process in Comey's case riddled with irregularities. The entire proceeding was led by an inexperienced prosecutor, Lindsey Halligan. The prosecution relied on a single FBI agent's testimony, based on tainted evidence. Jurors had no other perspectives and were unaware of the evidence's questionable origins. The judge's findings suggest the grand jury was steered toward a predetermined outcome, not an impartial decision. Perhaps the most damaging error: how Prosecutor Halligan explained the law to the grand jury. Judge Fitzpatrick found she made at least two fundamental misstatements. One misstatement concerned Comey's Fifth Amendment right not to testify against himself. The prosecutor's error could have led jurors to wrongly hold Comey's silence against him. In another instance, Halligan suggested jurors could rely on evidence not presented to them. This undermines the entire purpose of a grand jury, which must base decisions only on evidence shown. These aren't minor mistakes. They go to the core of fairness. By misstating the law, the prosecutor may have tilted the scales against Comey. The judge's findings are a powerful indictment of the prosecution's competence and conduct. The process was tainted from the start. The grand jury's decision is now under serious question. Adding to the suspicion, there's a 2-hour gap in the grand jury transcript. Grand jury proceedings must be recorded for accountability. Prosecutor Halligan claimed the missing time was juror deliberation, but the judge found this explanation lacking. The absence of a complete record raises questions about what happened during those 2 hours. Without a transcript, it's impossible to know if improper instructions or discussions occurred. This lack of transparency undermines confidence in the process. Judge Fitzpatrick ordered the Justice Department to turn over all grand jury materials to Comey's defense. This extraordinary step prioritizes due process over secrecy. The door is now open for a full review of what happened behind closed doors. Judge Fitzpatrick's ruling has transformed Comey's defense. Armed with evidence of prosecutorial missteps, his lawyers are poised to seek dismissal of the indictment. They'll argue that the government's conduct was so improper, the case can't proceed fairly. If a higher court agrees, the charges could be dismissed before trial. Even if not, the defense will move to suppress key evidence obtained illegally. If granted, this could cripple the prosecution's case. The Justice Department is fighting back, challenging the order to release grand jury materials. But the damage to the prosecution's credibility is done. The legal battle is far from over, but momentum has shifted toward Comey. The case now hinges on whether the courts will uphold the integrity of the process. The stakes couldn't be higher for both sides. This case is about more than James Comey. It's about the core principles of American justice. At stake are checks and balances, and the court's role in holding government accountable. Judge Fitzpatrick's ruling is a reminder that no one, not even the Justice Department, is above the law. Constitutional safeguards like the Fourth Amendment and attorney-client privilege are pillars of a free society. The issues here, political prosecution, inexperience, and a flawed grand jury, are deeply troubling. A fair process is the bedrock of justice. When rights are violated, the outcome is suspect, regardless of guilt or innocence. The judge's opinion champions the rule of law over convictions at any cost. For Comey, this could mean exoneration. For the public, it's a sign the system can self-correct. Ultimately, the integrity of the process is what defines justice in America.